We have an art scroll Gemara. It should be open. We're upholding 27A3. 27A3. Can you sell a Sefer Torah? When is it okay? When is it all right to sell a Torah? That is going to be the halachas that we learn about today in the Gemara. Mesechta Megillah, Daf Chaf Zayin Amud Aleph 27a. Starting off with Tanu Rabbanan. Our sages have taught us. The line starts off with the word Yitzara. The seventh line before the lines get very wide. Tanu Rabbanan. If you have it, it should be open to everyone. It's place 27a3, a Gemara. Our sages have taught us, Lo yimkar adam sefer Torah. Afilu afapi she'ein tzarich. A person should not sell a sefer Torah, even if they don't need the Torah. They don't have a shul in their house. There's no need for the sefer Torah. Still, a person should not sell a sefer Torah. There is some leeway if a person owns many sefer Torah, and perhaps they could sell one of them. But if a person owns only one Sefer Torah, they should not sell. And even if you own another Torah, still better not to sell, at least according to Rashi. Yasser al-Kain, even more than that. Even more than just not selling a Sefer Torah. Afilu ein lo ma'yochel, even if someone does not have food to eat. Umachar Sefer Torah. Oibitoi, he should not sell a Sefer Torah. And even if he sold a Sefer Torah, he is guaranteed ein roya simin bracha la'olam. He will never see any blessing or sign of blessing from this sale. And he says, in addition, one should not sell their daughter to be a maidservant, which is according to the Torah. If daughter is under 12, over the age of 6, she could be sold, meaning she could live in another house, and the household could pay the father money in order that the daughter could be a servant, a helper in the house. And then one who does that, even if they're very desperate for funds, never sees a sign of blessing. There are those who are medayik. They can learn from the wording of this Gemara that it says that somebody who on Shabbos, when somebody does malacha, does work on Erev Pesach, he does not see any sign of blessing. There it says he does not see any sign of blessing from that work, from that job that he's doing. Here it uses a different words. He never sees any blessing whatsoever, meaning not just in regards to the money that he earned from having the Sefer Torah, but does not see any blessing of any type whatsoever. The Rambam paskins to halacha that one is not allowed to sell a Sefer Torah no matter what the situation is.
Not even the cook,
The only exceptions are pikuach nefesh, saving a life, that you could do. But if one needs to, they don't have food to eat, you can't sell a Sefer Torah in order to have food to eat. There is a Chabad family, I think the last name is Zalmanov. When they escaped from Russia after the war, they managed to rescue with them a Sefer Torah. And they had a baby child, and they had a Sefer Torah, and the father was holding the Sefer Torah in his arms, and the mother was holding the baby, the child, and they were smuggling through a forest, I think, going into the Czechoslovakia, the Czech border, and you had to smuggle. They had to hire guides to walk overnight, very difficult terrain where the guards wouldn't watch, and the mother is holding the child, and she said, it's getting too heavy. And she asked the father, could you please hold the child? I have no strength left. So the father had no choice. He took a Sefer Torah, he gave it a kiss, and put it down under a tree in the forest, and he says, Torah, I beg your forgiveness, but saving a life comes first. And he held the child, he held the baby. Many years later, about 60 years later, they already passed away. And this Chabad family was speaking to another family who said we had a most amazing experience. That when we were escaping, we had to smuggle ourselves through a forest, and one of the children in the middle of the night ran away. And it was frantic. Everyone started running after them to find the child in the forest. And finally, we found them under a tree next to a very strange package. We opened the package, it was a Sefer Torah. And they made the connection, it was actually that Sefer Torah, which about 70 years before was left in the forest, that Baruch Hashem was discovered. So it's a beautiful story, but what comes out is that saving a life comes before a Sefer Torah. You can sell a Sefer Torah to save a Jewish life. And we learned yesterday, you could even, if that's the only means a person could have to get married, you could sell a Sefer Torah for that. And if the only thing they could do is to learn Torah, and the only way to do it is by selling a Sefer Torah, it's also more, you could do that as well.
It seems, I mean, if you had different kasavim, I think there's a Velish Sav and Ksarda Sav. And if you had a Sefer Torah that was not your Ksav, it seems to me that if you wanted to get a Sefer Torah that was your Ksav, you would be able to either exchange or sell or, in some way, the same thing or enhance. I mean, you sell your tefillin or to get a finer set of tefillin. So could this be the same case? I mean, it's not, if you're making a profit and doing it to make the profit, that was obviously would not be, appropriate. But if there's an union of a hiddur, and the question is whether it would be permitted under those circumstances.
Right. So I think that was more the topic of yesterday. Could you sell an old Sefer Torah to buy a new Sefer Torah? Because the new one is nicer than the old one. So seemingly that would fit into the same topic, which we had the two-way machlokes of Levi and Rabbi Yochanan of what you could do, and they said that you shouldn't do it, but if you did do it, then it's okay.
Okay.
Before you put it down in the pot.
One thing he asked Megillah from the Sefer Torah.
I wanted to remind you with a towel. I had to buy a new towel.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, should I make this my Shabbos towels?
Mm-hmm.
Brand new. But it's replacing the old towels, and they're very upset because up to now I made a bracha on them every day, and now I'm only gonna make a bracha
once in a while.
once or never.
Right.
Anyway, I told you the old towels, I told the new towels, I'm not gonna make you into a Shabbos towels, and I'll make a bracha on you every day. And that way you'll be mispious.
Wow.
Except that.
Yeah, so that is the Rabbi Isaac Hamler, who was a Rav in the city of Hummel for I think 70 years, very, very long time. He was a Rav in the city, and he wore a very old talis. And the woman of the shul see the Rav, the great Rav, rabbi wearing an old talis. So together they gathered money, and they bought him a new talis, and they presented it to him as a present. And he said, "Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. However, this talis that I wear could give testimony that I never had a machshava zara during davening. I never had a foreign thought enter my head during davening. So therefore, I wear this talis." Interesting. Once you're on that topic, there's, I'm not sure if you know the Berkowitz family. Berkowitz, so one of them was a shliach in Russia. One of them was in Toronto. Berkowitz family, they're Bali Tshuva from California, I think. So the Berkowitz family, one of the young boys was in 770 and a Yom Tov, Birchas Kohanim, and there are Kohanim, and he goes up to the front of the shul, and he's a young boy, he doesn't have a talis. And he's looking around to see where there's a talis, and he sees suddenly the Rebbe takes off his talis and starts handing it to him. Birchas Kohanim. So, and he was, wow. I'm like, he's a young 13, 14-year-old boy.
And he was a Kohen.
He's a Kohen, right? And the Rebbe handing him his talis, and right away some people saw it and they ran and they gave him a talis. The Rebbe doesn't have to give him his own talis. Right? But it's a special thing, meaning something has kedusha, something has value. Shliach. So the Rambam paskins that you can never sell a Sefer Torah, even if one does not have any money what to eat. You could sell a Sefer Torah if that's the only way to support a yeshiva where people are sitting and learning Torah, because learning Torah is more important than a Sefer Torah. Now, is there any way that one could sell a Sefer Torah? Let's say you made a charity campaign, a fundraiser, to raise money for a Sefer Torah. You needed, let's say, $50,000, and $150,000 came in. Could you take the rest of the money and make a big party by Chanukah Sefer Torah? Could I use it to renovate the shul? Could I use it to pay a gardener to garden the shul? Could I use it to fix the pavement in front of the shul? And or if you're in a city and you're collecting money for a shul, and you have leftover money, could I use leftover money to make a public transportation system in the city? That's what the Gemara is going to discuss now. Continuing the explaining the Mishnah 27a3, V'chein b'Mosreihen, that if there's leftover money, the surplus funds for a Sefer Torah or for a shul have to be used for the same sanctity. So let's say they sold the shul for $250,000. They built a new shul for $200,000 and they have $50,000 surplus. That $50,000 has to be used toward the shul. Amar Rava says, "L'shanu ella shemachru v'yisidu." When do we say the surplus funds must be used for the same item and the same level of sanctity? That the item which was sold, only if they sold an item. But if they collected money for something of holiness, let's say a Sefer Torah, but then there was leftovers, it collected too much money. I'm not sure if that's ever happened yet in history. Somebody's collected too much money. But if, let's say, that happened, and there's more money than is needed for the actual Sefer Torah, mutter, then you are allowed to use the surplus funds for other items that are not as holy as a Sefer Torah. Because these items were never yet dedicated toward a Sefer Torah. But once it's already dedicated to a Sefer Torah, then you cannot use those funds, even if it's leftovers, to buy something else. What could you use those funds for? Rabbeinu Chananel here on the side of the Gemara says you can use it even to go golfing. He says l'mishte be'shichra, to go drink beer with the leftover money. Drink beer.
Drink beer.
Yeah, meaning it's extra money. The Mishnah Brura, he writes, he paskins that leftover money has to be used for communal purposes. Not necessarily does it have to be something of kedusha, a mitzvah, but it has to be something of communal purposes, and as we'll see very soon here in the Gemara. Rava said that you must, if you sold a Sefer Torah and you have extra funds, the new funds have to be used for a Sefer Torah. If you collected money for a Sefer Torah and you have extra funds, the extra money could be used for any communal project, any communal need, even if it's not for a mitzvah. Abaya asked the question. He quoted our Mishnah. That when does this apply? That the leftover funds have to be used for the same level of holiness only if they did not make any type of condition. A stipulation before they sold it, but if they made a stipulation before they sold it that they could use the leftover funds of the sale for something else. So they have a Sefer Torah, they sold it for $80,000. The new one costs $50,000. You have $30,000 left over. And before they sold it, they made a stipulation. And if we find the new Sefer Torah for less expensive, we could use the funds for other purposes. Afilu liduchsisya mutter. Then it's permitted to use the money even for a duchsisya. Duchsisya means sus. Sus is a horse. You could use the money to buy a horse. So they'll say there was public transport in the city, and it's necessary for every city to have it. So just like our government over here in this great country, whenever there's a big financial crisis, they pay billions of dollars to support the airlines and support. Why? Because it's necessary for them to exist. So too, the government, the local kehila could subsidize the public transport of the city. So duchsisya is a horse which the people of the city use to travel around with. And if they made a stipulation that the leftover money of the sale could be used for this, you could use it for whatever you want, even if it's not a Sefer Torah. Heichidami. And what specific circumstances is a stipulation apply? If you're speaking about that the people of the city sold the Sefer Torah and they had leftover money, and therefore they could use leftover money however they see fit, kihisnu my heavy. It doesn't help to make a stipulation because, as the Mishnah said, leftover money after the sale of a Torah and the purchase of a new one has to be used for a Sefer Torah. Ella, we must say that when the Mishnah said that leftover money can be used even for a horse to be public transport, is speaking about when money was collected for a holy purpose, and then there's leftover money. And taima dehisnu, and the permission to use the leftover money is if they made a condition that we're collecting money for a Sefer Torah. If we collect more than the amount that we need, we're going to use the leftovers for anything we want. However, if they did not make any specific stipulation that we're going to use leftover money to buy another, to buy something else that's a communal need, so then if there's no stipulation, then we say that the leftover money, the extra money they collected, must also go for a Sefer Torah. So seemingly, the inference from this Mishnah could be a challenge to Rava, which Rava stated that if people collected more money than what's necessary, even without a stipulation that the leftover money could be used for whatever you want, you could spend it on any communal need. Abaye made an inference from later on that seemingly you need a stipulation for that. Without a stipulation, it doesn't work. Answers the Gemara. La'olam shemachru v'haisiru. You could actually explain that the Mishnah is referring to a case where they sold a holy object and they had leftover funds afterwards. And instead of the Mishnah saying that you need a stipulation, rather you could explain it like this: when does this apply? This that the Brisa says a condition helps that the leftover funds could go towards any other communal project is only if they made a condition. But if they did not make a stipulation before they sold it, so then the stipulation would not help, and therefore a condition doesn't work. So he reinterprets the Brisa to say that once a stipulation is made by the trustees of a town people, the entire proceeds of the sale, not just the main part, the entire proceeds could go to something else. But if it was only sold by the people, or it was sold without the trustees, or it was sold without making a stipulation, so then the principal has to go towards the new object of Torah, and the leftovers will be able to go for a communal need. So the stipulation is only helping that all the proceeds could go towards something else if it's a communal need. So practically, nowadays, how could we sort of get out of all the issues? How is it possible to somehow make some type of condition that a Sefer Torah could be sold for a different purpose? So it's possible in such a way to say that when you're getting a Torah to begin with, you make such a condition when you're collecting the money that we're using this money for whatever is needed now at this point. Meaning now we need to buy a Sefer Torah. For whatever reason, we need something else. We say that the money never became holy, became consecrated in the first place. Now, this is sort of a loophole, it could get very complicated, but there are ways of having it done and ways to do it, which, it could work. The same thing would apply if you have a shul, which was built. Before you build a shul, you have to stipulate, we could use this room for anything. It's not becoming solely a shul. Shul is sort of like one tenant of the place. So therefore, it could be used for a gym, it could be used for something else. So you could extend that type of condition before the fact. An ounce of prevention, right, is a, how does it go? Is a pound of cure.
And so what led to Pfeffer is that this is actually an example of actually where you officially have actually like one way, but since so many people take advantage of a loophole, so in actual practice.
Correct. But the halachas here are very, very nuanced. The best to ask a Rav. You can't just say, I'm dedicating a Sefer Torah to a shul, but in 20 years, if I decide I want to make the money back, I could sell it. That you can't do. It's a very nuanced type of halacha.
Okay. But don't try it at home.
Don't try it at home. Correct. Ask a Rav. In general, the best type of tzedakah, and it's interesting, very soon, from here, we go into tzedakah. It's the next topic in the Gemara, is you don't get tzedakah with strings attached. Giving tzedakah with strings attached is like shooting an arrow with a string attached to you at the same time. It's you want the tzedakah to have its proper effect. You give tzedakah unconditionally.
So someone gives $100,000 to build a lunchroom and have a plaque.
So he knows to begin with that the money could be used for anything. And money could be used to pay the custodians, and money could be used to, who knows what, to keep up, to pay the teachers. They don't know exactly what that money will be used for. They just know their name will be on the lunchroom. That's what they know. But it's quite, I think that will be a case where to begin with, you sort of know what you're getting into. Same thing if money was collected without saying what it's specifically for. Those who collect the money could dedicate the money for whatever they want. Like when Betzalel built the Mishkan, whoever gave money with a pure heart, he was able to know with Ruach HaKodesh. So he used that money, that gold, for the Aron in the Holy of Holies. And if somebody gave it just out of selfishness or because he didn't want to be embarrassed from his friends, so he would use that funds for a lesser level of kedusha, a lesser level of holiness. When there's halachas, if somebody sets aside, say, a bolt of wool, and this is going to be to make a cover for a Sefer Torah. So these things, that wool now becomes consecrated. You can't decide, I'm going to get different wool and now use this to make a pair of pants for someone. It becomes holy, dedicated for the Beis HaMikdash. Whenever the Rebbe will give out dollars, the Rebbe would say a sicha. The Rebbe would always say, to give it or its equivalent to tzedakah, because to consecrate a specific item, you're already going into warm territory, warm water.
Actually, the best thing to do is actually, if you wanted the do actually say, I might like to, but actually, it's not gonna be taking it on the level of a nether, right?
No, I think it's a little stronger than another. If someone puts aside these bricks are to build a shul, those bricks can never be used for anything else. If someone says, here's the money, now go buy bricks and build a shul. So after they built the shul with those bricks, if they need those bricks for something else and now they're going to build it for something else, you'll be allowed to, there's more leeway to use it. Because now you have better bricks and you're transferring the sanctity from these bricks to the new ones. And the old ones now could be used for something else. But if you never did that and you said these bricks are for the shul, I own a construction company and now these bricks are for the shul, so then it could be a little bit. So therefore, it's best to give without any strings attached. Give the money, and those who receive the money do as best as they see fit, and then you won't get into any halachic issues. Time flies by when you're having fun. We're going to have some halachas of Shabbos, Siman Ayin Beis of Kisur Shulchan Aruch. I know we don't have a screen today; it's upstairs. But holding Siftes, paragraph 9. Ein lases melacha b'derech keva b'erev Shabbos mimincha ktana l'mayla. One should not do work on Friday. From mincha ktana and onwards. Mincha ktana is about 2.5 hours before Shabbos starts. So 2.5 shows manias.
So my great grandfather was getting fired in London because come 12 o'clock on Friday he would quit.
Right.
He wasn't just making up his own chumrah.
Not correct. He wasn't making up his own chumrah, but he could have worked till a little bit later than that from the standpoint of halacha. He didn't have to stop at 12. He could have stopped, let's say, at 2:30.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have been any more lenient if they would have stopped at 2:30 instead of 12.
That's probably why he went back to Poland.
See, Mincha Ktana is about 2:30 in the afternoon, meaning the Mincha G'dayla is the earliest time you could have in Mincha. It's about 12:30. Well, clock exchange is 1:30, so this is 2:30 or 3:30. B'derech aray mutter, but if it's a not set type of work, then it's permitted. L'tzerich Shabbos kamach kach mutter, and you're allowed to do it if you need to do something for Shabbos. You have a store and maybe people are buying food. You can stay open until even close to an hour before Shabbos. Yeah, when we said you could get a haircut the entire day, even close to Shabbos, because everyone knows you're getting a haircut for Shabbos. Everyone should close their stores, even if it's for Shabbos, an hour before. And we saw a little clip about that yesterday. From about 3 p.m. or 4 p.m., once the clock is changed, which is the 9th hour of the day, one should stop eating a lot of food. One should eat less. You should work up an appetite for the night. Also says and best not to even have a meal in the morning. A big, if you have it every day, that's one thing. But to eat a special large meal in the morning, one shouldn't do it even in the morning of Friday. 2 exceptions. If you have a meal of a mitzvah, which has to be done today, Kigain, for example, Mila, a bris Mila, which happens on a Friday, Pidyon Ben, which could happen on a Friday, Sudas Erison Uminisuin, as well as a wedding. It used to be the custom, the minhag, that especially in the shtetls, whether it was done out of convenience or out of poverty, I'm not sure, but weddings would always take place on a Friday. Alter Rebbe's wedding was on a Friday. Many of the Rebbeim's family, were on a Friday. It was a normal thing. The famous story of the Ramah, where he made the chuppah on Friday night, because the chassan and kala were the parents of the chassan and the kala were arguing, and he sat with them for many hours till he made peace between them. I think the argument was about if who has to pay for the new talis for the chassan, and he finally made peace with them only late at night, and he decided that he's going to make the chuppah that night, Friday night, and there was tremendous controversy about it at that time. But the custom was that the weddings were on Friday, and the and the suda, the meal, the wedding meal was on Friday night. There's no music, no photographer.
Yeah.
Things were a little simpler back then.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to make a wedding meal on Friday. I've been at a few weddings which took place on a Friday. It's yeah. And there's a mitzvah not to push off your wedding. If you get married on a Friday, not to push it off. Because the mitzvah of pru'urvu, which you don't want to push off. And even Ederson, when the first was just a chuppah without the second part, Kiddushin without the nisu, and that could also be done on a Friday in the afternoon, and they would make a meal for it, because maybe someone else could marry her, so you're allowed to do it right away. Still, although you're allowed to do it Friday afternoon, better to do it Friday morning. And Alter Rebbe adds on, better to do it in the morning before 10 a.m., before the 10th hour.
I mean, as far as things you're saying, of the wedding, you're saying, right?
Correct, yeah.
Actually, Baruch Hashem, I didn't get married on Friday.
It's not so common nowadays, just out of sort of more convenience.
But even though
So we don't have it used to be a wedding was a shtetl event. Every family in the town, made another dish for the wedding. One made the green beans, and one made the potatoes, and everyone chipped in together. It was a full community event. Weddings weren't taking place so often back then.
Yeah, I mean, even though I got married actually in the early afternoon, but I think on Friday, if it would have been a Friday, I think I would have been nervous. Oh no, my wedding's on Friday. Shabbos is coming.
And you should not have a big meal, even for having a wedding feast on Friday. Make it a quick meal that you should have enough appetite in order to eat for Friday night. And even more than that, the Alter Rebbe adds on that if you're making a wedding meal on Friday, try to have just a minyan, not more than that. Or a minyan in addition to the close family. Now my father was in Yechidus once by the Rebbe for his birthday. Till Tashrin Lamed Hey, I think till 1975. Maybe it was 71. You're able to go into Yechidus for your birthday. Every single Bachar. I think it was every Chassid, and the Rebbe, later on, it got changed to just the Bachar in the yeshiva. And later on, the Rebbe stopped it. The Rebbe said the Fabrengen of Shabbos Bereshis, which is a general Shabbos of the whole year, is an equivalent of going into Yechidus for your birthday. There was one time my father went to Yechidus for his birthday when he was turning maybe 15, and his birthday, my father, and his birthday was on a Friday that year, and the Rebbe told him to make sure to finish Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum before Shabbos. So he was always very careful to do that. I know some people after he said that over by Fabrengen. I know they're very strict about finishing Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum before Shabbos. So we'll learn about Shnayim Mikra. Chayev kol adam lahashon parsha Yosef v'matziba. Every single person must learn the parsha and finish the parsha together with everyone. So on Shul, on Shabbos, we read the Torah, but it's not one person reading the Torah for us. We also have to read the Torah. Dahainu sheyikarei b'chol shavua parsha shavua Shnayim Mikra v'echad Targum. Every single person should, on Erev Shabbos, should read Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum, every pasuk 2 times, and then 1 time the Targum, the Aramaic translation. And as we learned in Mesechta Megillah, when Onkelos wrote it, the whole entire land of Eretz Yisrael shook. 500 parsa by 500 parsa. It's a tremendous kedusha, holiness in the Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum, specifically the Targum of Onkelos. And we'll discuss that soon.
And the Oculus actually was a Tana, no?
This was a time, correct.
Wow, he was a year.
Right, he said the original Targum was given by Moshe Rabbeinu. It came down on Har Sinai, but it was forgotten, and Onkelos reintroduced it. It was around during the times of the Anshe Knesset Agdoila, men of the Great Assembly. They had the Targum, the Aramaic translation, but it was forgotten during the time period of the second Beis HaMikdash, and Onkelos reintroduced it to the Jewish people.
He was a member of the Roman royal family.
Correct. We learn Chumash and Rashi every single day, and we're actually fulfilling in one of the manners of Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum. Because from Sunday and onwards, you could already start doing Shnayim Mikra, which is one of the ways of doing it. So, and part of the Shnayim Mikra is Targum, to translate it, which there's two aspects of Targum, of the Aramaic translation. One aspect of it is the understanding and explanation of it. So if you're learning it in English with Rashi, with Mefarshim, that's counted. So we learn every single day Chumash and Rashi. The secondary thing is Targum itself, Aramaic, has a special kedusha, a special level of sanctity and holiness. So we want to specifically only do with Targum, even if there's other things.
I mean, one a way of explaining it, Rashi's background of Rashi is Rabban Shel Yisrael.
Correct. And from the beginning of the week, from Sunday, it's considered to be learning the parsha with everyone else, because by Mincha, they already started, on Shabbos, they already started reading the new parsha. So therefore, let's say on Sunday, you learned Parshas Emor, Sunday with Rashi. That's already learning, to an extent, the idea of Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum. Aval mitzvah min mufchar, that's if you want to do it in a basic way. Better is to do it on Friday afternoon. To do it on Friday after Chatzos. Now, our Rebbeim, they had a very specific way of learning Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum. If it's Hayom Yom of the day of Dalet Teves, it discusses it. Says they would learn Shnayim Mikra, they would start it on Thursday night. And they would learn the first or second Aliyah, Chumash and Targum. They would, then on Friday afternoon, they would start over from the beginning, do the entire Parsha, Chumash and Targum, including the Haftarah. And if it's, let's say it's Haftarah, you don't read the Haftarah of the week because it's, let's say, Rosh Chodesh or Zachar, they would read both Haftarahs. And then Shabbos morning, they would again do Shnayim Mikra from Shvi, from the seventh Aliyah, from the last Aliyah. And they would do both Haftarahs. The source is actually from Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who said that we should learn Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum. And those over here on the screen, online could see it. The words, Ve'ela Shemois B'nai Yisrael, these are the names of B'nai Yisrael, beginning of Chumash Shemois, stands for the word V'chaya. Many Mefarshim bring this, Balaturim. Ve'ela stands for V'chaya of Adam Lahavir Parsha, or V'chaya of Adam Limud HaSedra. The person must learn the Parsha or the Sedra. Shemois stands for Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum. 2 times the Pasuk, 1 time the Targum. It said even more than that in Mesechta Brachos, Tafches. One who does Shnayim Mikra Veechad Targum, Marichin Layama B'Shnoisaf, will have long days and long years. Will have a very long life. Best is to do there's different ways, different methods of doing it. The best way is to say the entire pasuk 2 times and then the chumash 1 time. And there's actually chumashim out there called the Shnayim Mikra chumash, which have it all ready for you. Better than that is to do it with Rashi as well. Better than that is to do it with some other mefarshim. Some people, and we're going to bring over here shortly, some people, they do an entire parsha, let's say a parsha, meaning a paragraph in the Torah, 2 times, and then the Chumash. Some people do the entire parsha 2 times, and then the entire Targum 1 time. Someone who is fluent, it's best that the Shulchan Aruch says, best they should do it out of a kosher Sefer Torah. Someone who knows the Targum by heart or knows how to pronounce the words without a Chumash. Min Chabad is that we do it with a Chumash. You don't need a Sefer Torah. You should not interrupt from the beginning while you're doing it. If you need to interrupt, you should do it between aliyahs. I just find it very practical. If I interrupt in the middle, I lose tripod molding. So it's better not to interrupt, at least do it by an aliyah. But the Shulchan Aruch brings, and we're going to learn shortly, it's better not to interrupt. There's many advantages of why we do Targum Unclus. First of all, it was given by our Sinai, Moshe Rabbeinu. Second of all, many times he adds a little context in. And third of all, even in the places where the Unclus is no different than the Pasuk, no different than the verse. For example, you have in Parshas Vayishlach listing off the children of Esav, and you'll have Ugush, Ve'yalam, I remember the names, Uyuf, Ve'yalam, 3 names. That's the whole pasuk, and the Targum is the exact same thing. Even then, you should say the Targum because it's not merely about understanding; it's also about bringing kedusha, bring holiness. And in addition, Tanakh Ve'Eliyahu, teachings by Eliyahu Hanavi says you only fulfill your obligation when you do the Targum as well.
But if you don't understand the Targum, then it's not a Targum.
Right. So that's why I guess we learn Chumash Rashi to understand it as well. Chitas during the week to have both advantages. But the other advantage of the Kedusha of Targum is also a very great thing. There's the Chida brings a very unique approach to Shnayim Mikra, why specifically Targum, which is not the common language today. He brings down the source is Ve'ela Shmois B'nai Yisrael, the hint. These are the names of B'nai Yisrael. Why specifically over here? Why in Chumash Shmois does a hint for Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum come? Why not in the beginning of a Torah? So there are those who say it's sort of like yesterday's Hayom Yom, which says that during Sefer Sa'omer you should learn Saita Gemara every single day because it's 49 lot. Why wait till day 23 to say that? Because if you didn't do it yet, or if you stopped in the middle, you could still make it up. So Bereshis, many people start off with excitement to do Shnayim Mikra, and it comes to Shemais, people forget. So therefore, we have a hint in Shemais. But even more than that, actually, in Parshas Chayesara, at the end of Chayesara, we have the words Ve'ela Shemais. Again, these are the names of Bnei Yishmael, sons of Yishmael. And it lists off 12 of his sons. Over here in Parshas Shemais, we have Eila Shemais Bnei, just changed 2 letters, 3 letters, Yisrael, of the Jewish people. Not Yishmael, but Yisrael. And so he explains that the 12 sons of Yishmael, they are 12 different Kisser de Misavosa, powers of Klippa and Tuma in this world. And the Shemais Bnei Yisrael, the sons of the Jewish people, they are 12 Kisra, the Kedusha, 12 crowns of Kedusha in this world. And therefore, it's into specifically by when the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim, because here you have the ability to be mevarer, the Jewish people going down to Egypt, Habayim Mitzrayim, to elevate the the bricks, the low things in Mitzrayim, and that's specifically through the power. That's the idea of Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum. You're bringing the power of the Mikra, of the Torah, into Targum, into Noiga. Targum, he says, is a gematria of the word Soid Noiga, Klippas Noiga. And you're connecting with a pasuk that should become one with Kedusha. Therefore, every single person should read Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum. And the whole idea of going to Mitzrayim was to elevate the sparks of Kedusha. now that we're going into Rafa, in Hebrew it's called the Rafiach. And although we were there for many years, but now they left it and they're going back in. There's 288 sparks. I know the Rebbe already said we finished elevating all the sparks, but maybe there's some kedusha in there that we could still elevate. The Chassidus says the best, or Rebbe said the best time to do it is on Friday afternoon. Why not do it earlier? Why push off learning Torah? So there's a very fundamental concept, a lesson that could be brought out from this. It's brought down in a few different places, that more important than being excited is being consistent. Shnayim, Mikra, Veechad, Targum is not very exciting per se. And to do it on a specific time, Erev Shabbos in the afternoon, when it's a very busy time for most people, it's also it's a big difficulty for many people to do. But it's important that when you serve Hashem, it has to be in a consistent way. A person could say, "Oh, I'm too busy," or "It's not for me." So therefore, it's said in a specific time that you don't add on. Don't start adding on different pirushim, different explanations. Doesn't talk to me. We do Shnayim, Mikra, Veechad, Targum, and specifically at this specific time. We'll pause over here. We'll pause over here. And Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow, Rabbi Darren confirmed that he will